Now, you're head of public policy at an incredibly influential think tank, one of the think tanks that helped drive those Thatcher reforms in the 1980s that some people now say almost run the government. What do you say to the criticism of think tanks like yours that you guys have got your perfect policy prescription now and it's all fallen apart?
Well, I would say this is very far from the perfect policy prescription. I think people on the free market side of politics have spent many years emphasising the need to ensure a stronger fiscal situation. The government hasn't done the kind of structural reforms that we're talking about, which could actually grow the economy. Now, I would say in terms of the idea of talking about economic growth, that shouldn't just be a free market cause. That should be a universal cause. I think everyone should be thinking about what are the policies that could grow the economy, what are the regulations that get in the way, how can we reform our tax system and ensure spending doesn't go too high. Now, these are all, I think, quite reasonable and sensible reforms. Now, despite the popular myth and what you might read on Twitter sometimes, unfortunately, Tom, we're not actually running the government. The government runs itself, and ministers, I think, rightfully make decisions rather than little small think tanks in Westminster that the conspiracy theorists like to talk a lot about.
Yes, I suppose if the IEA was really running the government, we wouldn't be spending £150 billion on fixing energy prices, and there'd probably be a great sweep of supply-side reform and potentially even some spending cuts, which bizarrely the government has ruled out. Matt Lesh, what do you make of what Sir John Redwood was saying earlier in this programme, that we need to wait basically 2 more weeks to see what the government is going to say on supply-side reform before making any judgments, that it's almost impossible to say where the country will be in terms of indebtedness, in terms of deficit or anything else in terms of fiscal propriety until we've seen that supply-side reform agenda?
Yeah, look, I think John's right that the government needs an opportunity to spell out its full agenda, both on the fiscal side when it comes to what is it going to be the spending, what are the projections from the OBR, as well as on the regulatory side, what are the reforms. I really do deeply worry, though, as much as we might want to be optimistic, that it's very difficult to do supply-side reforms. We've spent a lot of time talking about planning reform in the past. Inevitably, you get people who will oppose any sort of planning reform, no matter how reasonable, and it takes a lot of difficult political effort in order to put those things before Parliament. And I'm just not sure that the current government has the capacity to do so because of the rough start.